Everyone, today is Monday, June 24th, 2023. The time is 3:36. I call to order the special called Joint Budget and Finance, Economic Development and Tourism, and Committee of the Whole. This afternoon we have some items that were needed to be considered by both Budget and Finance and Economic Development and Tourism, and so we felt it was opportune to call this meeting today as a joint meeting of the Committee of the Whole. So, councilors, this is an entire Committee of the Whole meeting with both of these committees. I'll turn it over to our Budget and Finance Chair, Councilor Pro Tem Crystal Smitherman, and she'll lead us through the agenda and the items.
Yes, thank you, Madam President. So let's move on to item number 2. Committee members, have you had a chance to look at the minutes from the last meeting?
Yes.
Is there a motion for approval?
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. The minutes from the last Budget and Finance meeting have passed. Next is consideration of the consent agenda. Councilors, do you have any items you'd like to place on consent?
Yes. Madam Chairman, I would like to place items 4, 6, 7, 9, 11, 12, 18, 19, and 20 on consent.
Okay. We'll go back through. It says item 4 on page 1, items 6 and 7 on page 2, item 9 on page 3, item 11 on page 4, item 12 on page 5, and items 18 through 20 on page 7. Councilors, does anybody else have any items they would like to place on consent? Madam President.
No, I don't have any.
Okay. Well, can we have a motion for approval?
I move for approval of those items that have been requested for consent.
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
The consent agenda has been passed. So if your item was placed on consent, I don't know if you could hear us, then you are good to go and enjoy this sunny day. So that was items 4, 6, 7, 9, 11, 12, and 18 through 20. Okay. Now we will call up the first item, that is item number 8. Chief. Is Mr. Hatcher here?
How about number 5?
Number 5?
Yes.
Oh, skip number 5. Number 5. That's still Chief.
All right, we'll bring up Mr. Coriace Housen that's going to speak about Tick Birmingham, and I think Mr. Dion Gordon is here. Oh,
You gotta come over here.
come on up,
You need to
Dion.
be sure we can speak towards this mic.
And they said kind of yell. Don't yell at us, but yell at the light.
You want to take it out?
Okay, so I'm Coriace Hauser. I serve as Deputy Director for the Department of Innovation and Economic Opportunity. Today before you, you have a request for $250,000 sponsorship or financial assistance for SLOSTEC. This line item comes out of the $1 million that Council allocated for attracting conferences and conventions out of ARP, and so this is part of that budget that you see here. So SLOSTEC, or Tech Birmingham, was launched in 2020 as a City Hall task force. So Tech Birmingham stands as a technology trade association for the region, and in 2015 it affiliated a 501c3 to create and promote STEM and technical education throughout the state. If you remember, in 2020, Apple CEO Tim Cook joined Mayor Woodfin, Tech Birmingham CEO Dion Gordon here, and others to announce EdFarm, a national coding and digital skills initiative launched through Tech Birmingham's nonprofit arm, Tech Alabama. So what you see here is SLOSTEC. You've all heard of SLOSTEC before. It took a break during COVID, as many other conventions and conferences as well, but it is back this year. And so it is back as it really never left, and even better. There are some great features that they have decided to include in this year's convening, and so throughout all of their offerings that they have over 750 attendees. They sell out Lyric Theater every year that they have hosted SLOSTEC. Some past speakers, Alexis Ohana, Bozama St. John, who you guys may be familiar with, but again, due to COVID, SLOSTEC took a break, and so now they're coming back. The one improvement this year that they're doing is Elements for Students and early career access, as well as BC Connections for underrepresented or HBCU affiliate founders will be added this year. And Deanna can go in a lot of detail about that, but that is a very new thing that we thought was important to include this year, is making sure that Birmingham City School students continue to enjoy that and deepen that relationship. So in 2019 was the last event that they held prior to the pandemic. SLOS Tech is the largest gathering of tech professionals and the best opportunity to attract industry leaders, recruit talent, and startup. So just a few numbers: 120 million impressions that they have with SLOS Tech. 47 states are represented in the attendees that come to SLOS Tech. Over $10 million in earned media coverage for SLOS Tech. And then we have a very interesting letter from a student at Ramsey High who reached out to Dion and his team, not knowing that it was coming back. And I do want to read that for you guys. So Ramsey High School student says, "I wanted to see if there was a way to bring SLOS Tech back. The past years have been amazing and were productive in highlighting tech industries. I believe SLOS Tech would elevate Birmingham even more. I attended SLOS Tech 2017 to 2019 with an organization called Stream Innovations and had an amazing experience. My time at SLOS Tech in 2019 led me to headline a research project in algorithms that I was inspired to complete by a speaker I met there. I was checking to see if we could bring SLOS Tech conference in 2023 because I wanted to encourage a few of the juniors in Engineering Academy at my school to attend and participate in tech-based conversations." So with that, what you have again before you is a $250,000 request out of our $1 million allocation that the council approved for attracting conferences and conventions through ARP.
Oh, that was a very good presentation. Councilor Abbott, do you have any questions?
I think the Ramsey student said it.
I know. Seal the deal.
I am interested. I was listening on NPR on the way over here to a segment on AI, and they were talking about all these people in these foreign countries that were coding for AI, except they didn't speak English, and so now they were transferring all this to the United States. Will there be anything during this conference about AI, since it's like the hot button?
Absolutely. Thank you, Councilwoman, for that. So we actually have two panels on AI. We have a national stage panel that will be attended by representatives from Google, Microsoft, and I believe Salesforce for that first panel. And then we have a breakout panel that'll be more regional in nature, but still lifting up the topic of artificial intelligence, and that'll be attended by Regents, a representative from them, and then two other individuals who will be presenting as well. I believe Tableau might be represented, if you all are familiar with that software. So that's a long way of saying there's going to be some representation there. And then we also have some workshops that are going to dive more so into technology, and that's part of what Coriate hit on about that. So we're calling this program Next in Tech. The genesis of that was the opportunity to bring students like the individual from Ramsey, go Rams as an alum, to make sure they have access but an exposure, but also an opportunity to immerse. Even more long-winded answer, we're also going to have activities about the metaverse. So we mentioned Ed Farm. One of the projects that we have, I serve as the strategic advisor for Ed Farm in my current capacity. We have a partnership with Kai Frazier. This kind of hits on 2 points. So Kai had never been to Birmingham, was honestly afraid to come to Birmingham. Picked her up from the airport, showed her around. Long story short, she is now looking for an apartment. She stayed here for 3 months, extended it to 4 exactly. Her platform, KaiXR, is going to be either headquartered or have a significant presence here. But again, it was a conference that actually brought her the first time. So Kai is going to be having, along with Ed Farm, activations on some of the 3rd Avenue lofts. So literally, you can imagine kids and adults going in, putting on Oculus headsets and going deeper into the metaverse. So we're going to have a lot of content, but also hands-on experiences as well.
That's so cool. Because I've done the metaverse. It's really cool.
I knew more than I knew.
Madam President.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks for, glad COVID is over and so we can get back to this, because I know just from the information you shared, it's been very successful. I was interested, and you mentioned just a little bit, the Ed Farm piece, and the synergy with Birmingham City Schools, perhaps with workforce development or creating some type of pipeline. So could you tell me how that works?
Yeah, thank you. I kind of skirted over that. So the Next in Tech program, again, the short is to make sure kids have access, that they have exposure and an opportunity to become immersed. We're going to launch it at SmallSec, but it doesn't just end there. This is something that we see going in perpetuity. So we want, for instance, for Magic City Classic, the emphasis is going to be on HBCU students, and actually kind of tying that back around. So the Next in Tech program, going to the loft setting that we have, that will be in partnership with Ed Farm, but also Innovate Alabama. So they're going to bring their Innovate Alabama HBCU experience. I was just with Sharice Stokes, who's my counterpart in Montgomery, with Tech MGM, and so they are activating that space, and we were down there basically just kind of mapping out where the different stations are going to be. So
Thank you.
thank you.
Okay, councilors, I think Council Clark.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey. Well, sounds like some great work you guys have been doing, but I may be the only one who's never heard of SLOSS Tech. But anyway,
No,
you said everybody's heard of it. That me.
it was aspirational.
Okay.
Yeah. So
But no. I wanted to ask, what's your total budget, and do you have who are some of your other sponsors? Do you have one bigger than us?
Not bigger. Full budget is about $1 million all in, including a lot of services that would be donated. But it takes a lot to bring it on, especially since we have some additional components. So the Next in Tech, I failed to mention that those tickets will be free for all students. So we're looking for 100 to provide even more if we can find the funding for that. And then the other sponsors, so Endeavor, they are a global entrepreneurial organization, basically designed to take founders who are right there on the cusp, but with a little bit more resources and mentoring, can really start to scale. Excuse me. And so they are bringing in a ton of speakers. Happy to provide some for you all. But Candace Matthews Burkeen, she is the general partner of Lightship Capital in Indianapolis, Cincinnati, but they do a lot of investing in markets like Birmingham and folks who quite honestly come from underrepresented markets. So they're providing a ton of speakers for us. Jefferson County, we're in conversations with them right now. I don't know if it's appropriate to name the figure, but not
But
as...
you gotta raise $750,000.
We've already established some significant commitments, yes.
Okay, so you have a lot of other sponsors. Okay.
Awesome, thank you.
So Coriotta will be on the stage a lot, right? Representing our sponsors.
Everybody.
But seriously, we want to lift up what is going on in Birmingham. I mean, it's not just about making sure we're celebrating the wins here, but it's really about telling the story of the city. Because again, I mean, there are tons of Kai Frasers out there who have never come to Birmingham, and their impression of us is probably outdated. And so what better way than a conference like this, where we're literally bringing in over 50 venture capitalists and other funders and people in that ecosystem to experience Birmingham, I will argue probably most of them for the first time.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Councilor Tate?
Did I miss, when is the conference?
Oh, you did? Because I didn't say it, so no, you didn't miss it. August 2nd through August 4th.
Okay.
So in a
And
month.
Congratulations, thank you, we're working on. Because I just met with some young gen peace builders, and one of the young ladies, just to hear, what they have accomplished, their framework, and what they're looking for from leaders. And one of the things that she was talking about was doing an app, and I mentioned Ed Farm, so, and one of my requests, and I think I can probably speak for us as a whole, is to just please get that information to us so we can help you guys promote it and get it out in the community.
Absolutely.
Because, being in this tech world is super important, and one of the things that I told them, I said, this right here will get you paid.
Yes.
So, yeah, just get us that information so we can,
Absolutely. Well, then to that, if there are particular schools or maybe students within you all's district that you want to lift up or just submit for consideration, more than happy to make sure that they have a place as well through that Next in Tech program.
thank you.
What are the ages for Next in Tech?
So the focus right now is on high school, college, but obviously we've done middle in the past through Stream Innovations. We just haven't fleshed out an official partnership. But part of that falls to Ed Farm, obviously bringing in people as part of their activation. But again, it's incredibly easy for us to take some names that you all consider lifting up in whatever way is appropriate, so we can make sure that they have complimentary tickets as well.
Okay, gotcha. Council Williams, did you have any questions?
Good job. Thanks for doing that.
Doesn't happen without you all, so thank you.
Yeah. Anybody else have any more questions? Is there a motion for approval?
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Item number 5 passes. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good luck, Dion.
Thank you all.
Next item now is item number 8.
So Madam Chair, we're gonna, ask this to be withdrawn. So if you don't mind, we can, get it over to item number 10.
It's your world. We just live in it, Chief. All right, item number 10 then. Oh, Mr.
So we're
Ashby.
gonna bring up, Mr. Ashby.
Yes.
Oh, you're back.
All right. It's me again. So Generator Prosper Health Tech is what's before you. Financial commitment of $50,000 for a new conference that they have. So Generator hosts conferences all the time. You guys are very familiar with Prosper Birmingham. They have a health tech accelerator. So this particular conference will help connect startups, investors, and corporations. It will focus on healthcare startups. The conference will showcase recent Generator founders in healthcare and facilitate one-on-one meetings between startups and relevant investors and corporations. Generator has a history of connecting startups with capital, and since 2016, they've connected uniquely over 2,000 unique startups with investors. 30% of those have seen follow-up capital because of these connections from this conference that exceeds $2 billion. So that's billion with a B. Through these connections that they do with investors, our local founders and startups have had over $2 billion in investment into their companies. So why Birmingham? So this conference will showcase Birmingham as a hub for innovation, stimulate innovation while infusing funding into the regional healthcare industry, convene leaders in the healthcare throughout the region, and then most importantly, and really important to us, is that it's going to highlight the city's recent Good Jobs Challenge, which I'm sure you guys are probably like, we know what that is. So it's the $10.8 million that we got from the Department of Commerce to make sure that over the next 3 years, we train up to 1,000 residents in healthcare. And so this conference, along with all of the people who will be invited to attend, will also get to know more about our Good Jobs Challenge and how we're looking for companies to make sure that the 1,000 residents that we train actually have real job opportunities. So projected goals and outcomes is 500 plus attendees, 300 plus startup applications, 250 meetings with investors that all companies will do during this day and a half conference. And then they're also committed to diversity, so making sure that that's at the top. So 46 of Generator companies have at least one founder of color, 29% of Generator companies have a woman CEO, and 33% of Generator companies have a CEO of color. Just to point out, because I forgot the last time, thank you, Councilor Tate, the meeting, or this conference will be August 15th through August 16th this year.
Where will it be
In
located?
District 9,
Oh, in District.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
at the stadium. Yeah.
Okay.
Looks like it's up protected.
Gotcha. All right,
Protected?
Madam President, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Councilor Abbott?
It's gonna be at the stadium.
Yes, it's going to be at the stadium. Usually with Generator conferences, we like to do big sports venues because since we have so many one-on-one meetings, it's easier to facilitate those in places that have a lot of suites. And so usually that's big sporting arenas. For example, this past week, we held 2 conferences in the span of 3 days in St. Paul, Minnesota at Allianz Field, which is a big soccer field, and so it had over 50 suites where we were able to curate those meetings. So coming back to Birmingham, we thought, why not Protective Stadium? Why not give back to the community in downtown Birmingham?
Good, I didn't catch your name.
Torian Blackburn, I'm the assistant director of conference logistics for Generator.
Thank you.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Any other councilors? Councilor Clark, do you have something?
Has this event ever been held in Birmingham before?
Yes, ma'am. It was held last year in Birmingham. So a couple highlights from last year. We had a startup showcase with recent graduates from the Prosper Health Tech Accelerator. We facilitated over 100 pitch meetings with corporations and investors. Over 500 startups applied to participate at the conference. Over 300 total registrations for the event. We had 28 investors and corporations that met with founders during the conference of last year, and our keynote speaker last year was Camille Chang Gilmore. She's a VP of HR and Global Chief Diversity officer for Boston Scientific. So that was kind of an overview of the conference from last year.
Okay. All right, you good? Counselor Tate, Counselor Williams, y'all good? Okay.
Sorry.
Speaking of Good Jobs Challenge, what's our, number? How many residents have we reached so far?
So we're just moving into phase
Gotcha,
2,
gotcha,
which is
okay.
now that people piece. So
Gotcha,
that
okay.
happened like 2 weeks ago.
Oh, okay,
So,
that's
yeah.
good to know.
Yeah.
Okay, is there a motion for approval?
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye, the
Okay, who
item passes,
motioned?
thank you.
Thank
Good
you.
luck.
So much.
Whoever you pick. Okay, next item, do you wanna bring all these up, Madam President?
I'd
Okay.
like to request we bring up items 13, 14, 15, 16 altogether,
And 17?
and 17. We'll go with 17.
Okay, well, I guess that'll be Jeff. Since the council.
Sure. Is there a question, Madam Chair?
Well, okay, I'll say, so these items are resolutions determining that any recreation, sports, entertainment, and tourism activities serve a public purpose. This is to help with quarterly meetings in districts 1, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and 9. Number 15 is for holiday events in November and December. Number 16 is Keep Birmingham Beautiful activities in districts 1, 2, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. And the last one is the Magic City High School football showcase that Council Woods does every year.
Yes. So, is there a question about the purpose of the public purposes, or is there a funding question? Yes. And I guess the idea behind central public purpose, if you took each council district that does some level of participation in one or more of the activities, it will basically flood the agenda and budget and finance, every Monday of budget and finance, every Tuesday of the council meeting. So we just consolidated them all, and each councilor, based on their district needs, have the flexibility of using their public purpose. So I can name those activities just to kind of give some examples across all the ones that are listed here. Or I'll take additional questions. I'll take some additional questions.
Yeah, well, my question was, like, item 16, for example. This would be, Keep Birmingham Beautiful Commission activities. And my district isn't included, but I didn't know whether it was an option, and I didn't know whether that was accidental or on purpose, since every other district is listed here. We might want to do a beautification activity with KBBC, but I didn't know until I read the agenda that it was coming up. So is there a problem with adding a 3 in there?
Councilor Abbott,
I mean, there's no money attached to this because it says TBD, so we don't even know what we're doing.
Well, I was prepared for that. This is an FY '24 request, so I do have the funding sources if those are needed, but it's not in my spirit to treat one councilor differently than others. I'm just going based on behaviors. If you wanted amended to add District 3, we can do that.
So I don't behave like a Keep Birmingham Beautiful person. Well, I'll have to work on that, but yeah, if you would add 3 to that, I'm not gonna be partying at Christmas, but I am interested in KBBC
We
activity.
don't party, we give away toys and bikes. I dressed up as an elf one year, like, come on now.
I'm gonna come help you get a sofa off the curb into a dumpster.
Mattresses are the big ones. If they don't have handles, it's really hard to do, so. Thank you.
Okay, you can count on
Is
me.
that all your questions, Councilor Abbott?
Yeah, I think that was all my, some of these things I didn't even know what they were, so I felt kind of bad about that, but I remember, man up and all that stuff, they're old. So, no, nothing else.
Are there any other councilors with questions? Okay, is there a motion for approval for these items?
Second.
And that's items 13 to 17, okay. All in favor, say aye. Aye, those items pass.
Madam Chair,
Mhm.
I know we got 2 items, so we wanted to do 22 reports. I know 21 is
Oh, yeah, thank you. So item number 22 is,
I can speak on it.
okay.
So council, what's before you is, us as a administration and the Birmingham Police Department trying to expand and advance our technology, as the mayor always says, to add more tools in our toolbox of public safety by trying to reimagine how we do public safety by adding more cameras and installing those said cameras. This was a request of the council as we met on our one-on-ones about the budget, that we want to try and implement more camera systems into our real-time crime center that gives us more eyes on the streets when we have, where we're still trying to recruit more police officers to the force. So what's before you is basically a cost that we're still in negotiation with, but we're very confident with this amount between us and Alabama Power Company to basically extend and install the current camera system that resides in the city of Birmingham.
Have you all determined the locations yet?
We do, but we don't publicly want to announce those.
Can we know?
Technically, no.
Oh,
We'll give you a vicinity of what they are.
okay. All right. Councilor Abbott, Madam President.
They will be
I
shared. I apologize. Randall Wood from Mayor Birmingham. Good afternoon, everybody.
Good afternoon.
I can kind of think I understand the question. They will not only be in one city council district. They will be,
Oh, no, that wasn't my question. I just know a lot of us have locations for cameras that have been proposed. And we actually have neighborhoods that have bought cameras and we haven't gotten them yet.
I think in working with BPD, there's concern around the protection of equipment related to making sure that equipment is safe and that people don't bother it. So if we were to share that, it wouldn't be necessarily something we would share. Discussion on this.
All right. Councilman Moore had a question.
Yeah, thank you, Madam Chair. I just had a question about the amount of cameras that we were able or are going to be able to purchase.
So this won't be around 50, but if you remember when we introduced the pilot program, that a camera had different types of streams or eyes on those different lenses. So it creates more of a robust vantage points other than you just thinking a single lens camera. They have different vantage points on different cameras, so it gives you different numbers of streams per camera, if that makes any complete sense.
So you're saying that there's a LPR and PTZ for
Yes.
911 unit? So
And,
that's 50 locations and 50 cameras?
50 cameras.
and so are these gonna be able to be moved around? Are they mobile or are they just stationary?
That's the whole gist of working with Alabama Power, because as you know, we transferred all the existing maintenance of poles to Alabama Power. So we'll have the ability to use that as an advantage, but also have the advantage to moving them if necessary. If the police department feel like it's more reasonable, put them in more hot spots that we feel that we need more visibility on.
Okay. Councilor Abbott, you had a question.
Yeah, I wanted to know if these cameras are sort of multidisciplinary, like they could catch the people who are dumping stuff in our neighborhoods at the same time they're catching the drug dealers and the criminals and the...
Yes, so that's two different camera systems. So we have the NOLA camera system that we're currently trying to fix and install. I think Council Smithman ordered 5 that we have and trying to get those installed.
Yes.
But we want to make sure that those are different from the actual criminal ones that we want to, kind of lean in towards. But we'll definitely work with you and try and resolve those dumping issues by working with NOLA cameras to get those installed.
And the NOAA cameras can be easily
Yes.
moved from spot to spot.
Yes.
So after you clean up one trouble spot, you can...
Yeah, and then the difference with the NOLA cameras, those are more visible than these cameras. So the NOLA cameras are really to deter dumping. And they have a mechanism on it, like once somebody comes in range, it pretty much yells at you saying you're on camera and like things of that nature. From what I saw, that's what I thought was pretty unique.
Okay, so does that mean when people are walking by, it'll yell at them?
You know, Abbott likes that. We're actually gonna put her voice on there, so, Madam President.
Thank you. I want to piggyback on Mrs. Abbott's question, because that was my thing about the technology between these set of types of cameras and what's before us on the agenda. And just saying, have we kept up with the technology, or no, those cameras haven't been put in place for NOLA?
NOLA, yes.
Yeah.
So the reason for the delay with NOLA, because I know we're on a different angle.
Right.
They had some technology upgrades that we had to we didn't foresee, and so we had to pay a difference in the fee. So now they're more what we need. Now what's before you just, these are integrated into our real-time crime center, which is our key component for crime fighting. So we just want to make sure that we have it for that.
Okay, thank you.
Councilman, you had a question?
What, so what's the name of these cameras that we're getting?
I have to send it to you because I don't know the technical name, but it's, unless Chief.
Chief
knows,
is here.
I believe it's Vigilon is the manufacturer.
Vigilon?
Can you come up, Chief? We can't hear you.
So Scott Thurman currently serves as Chief of Police for the Birmingham Police Department. So it's a Vigilon.
Mm-hmm.
They're used in many businesses and other places. We've used some already. We really just need more cameras is kind of the point. We've got cameras we have that need to be installed currently. We've solved a number of homicides and other crimes in the housing communities where we have about 600 or 700 cameras.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been very effective. It's just, we just need more of that resource.
Gotcha.
And so, looking at this price, $350,000, if we're getting 50 cameras, that means that there's 7,000 apiece, correct?
Oh, no, that's not just per camera. So then that costs installation, maintenance, the whole nine. So that's not a full cost of it. Because we have already tried to work with Alabama Power. We're negotiating the cost right now. I had very long conversation with the leadership at Alabama Power to negotiate a price. We just need this as a start.
Got you. So, wait, so what is this going towards then?
Cameras, mostly it's for installation.
Installation. Got
Yeah. Are you?
you. Yeah.
Council Williams?
So is this the installation of the cameras that we purchased this past fiscal year?
Yes, sir.
So we're not actually purchasing new cameras, this is more of like the installation?
It's for installation, but like I said, we're negotiating right now with Alabama Power to add more based off of a negotiation that I'm handling with their leadership.
You are you? Council
So,
Shay.
Chief, the NOLA cameras, will they be almost about Redstone Crime Center?
Mhm.
Okay.
I think they are integrated.
We've got some that are on
Yeah.
pilot now,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
Well,
Ms. Clark.
thank you, Madam Chair. I'm just looking forward to a solution or some help with Thomas. Because, when we talked about Thomas, I know the mayor is big on one way in, one way out. 2 ways in, 2 ways out, but a lot of homicides, a lot of drugs, a lot of everything. And I know you mentioned cameras as being a possible solution, something conspicuous to let criminals know, hey, we're watching this neighborhood, and then something more covert that they wouldn't know, like back by the park. I just hope, this can really help some of these hot spots we have all across the city, because, people feel really trapped and hopeless in these areas that are kind of like off the path and just, a haven for criminals. But we got so many, but I'm just putting a bid in for Thomas neighborhood, so.
Okay. Chief?
Yes, so I just want to know, because I'm gonna mess up the name, Chief, can you relate to the council that agreement that we had where we can use private businesses that want
So-
to opt in?
Fusus Connect.
Fusus Connect.
And so
Okay.
the video, we let OCA look at it today. There's one little tweak we have to make to it, and then we can roll that out to the committee. Once they click on the link, it takes them to the Fusus website. So they're actually doing business with Fusus and not the city of Birmingham or Birmingham Police Department, because they're entering into an agreement with them. And that ties in our businesses and our homeowners to the Real-Time Crime Center. So when things occur in those areas, there's 2 they can do. One, they can just put it on the list if they have the asset, and so our detectives can go there and research their video, or it can directly feed in, so when something occurs, we can immediately see or rewind and see what took place. We've actually captured homicides on video and then said, hey, the suspect's down in apartment 3, and went down there and arrested them.
That's good.
So, Madam Chair, on this portion of the conversation, at a later date, I think we should go deeper on the, I guess, a campaign around getting businesses to opt in, as well as homeowners who have cameras to opt in in other cities. This is a large part of the investigative problem, the crime-solving portion of what they do, by having the businesses being able to feed into and or have access to post something that allows us to bolster assistance and the ability to investigate and solve crime.
Gotcha. I think you probably don't even have to go on the campaign. I know a lot of private businesses, especially in the 5 Point South Business District, that have caught people on camera, and they feel kind of discouraged because they say, I have this tape and it seems like it's not going anywhere. In fact, they've sent it to me and homeowners. So I look forward to honestly doing this, especially on the south side where, we're having trouble in certain departments. So,
Absolutely.
is there anyone else?
Yeah,
Council
so
members?
Mayor, on the or chief, on the Fusus piece, are we gonna allocate funding to get that piece that the businesses need to connect, that $400 piece?
No, I don't believe so, because that's the beauty with Fusus. The small box is $300, the bigger one's $600. It just depends on how many cameras are on your system, which box you need. And so we looked at other things like Detroit's Green Light District and other things. They were making people buy very expensive camera systems. And so this was just a much more affordable way. And it's much more effective. It links us with the Matter Center, as you know. There's just a lot of other large cities are using Fusus. We've been to Atlanta and vetted this and looked at theirs. I believe Nashville is using it as well. So it's been well used in many other large cities. So we feel like it'll work very well here.
How do you spell it? I'm sorry.
Fusus.
Okay.
Fusus.
Chief, I have a question. So last year, we had a meeting with the neighborhood officers, and Mayor Woodfin called it, and they were told they were going to be able to buy more cameras. And it kind of got there and then it stopped. Are we going to pick that back up
So
soon?
we're talking about the NOLA cameras or the
I don't remember which ones
so
it
let us
was.
refine that so we
Okay.
can get something more concrete to,
Yeah.
for you to take to your neighborhood meeting, so we can be all on the same page and talk about what kind of camera system the neighborhood may want.
Okay, because they ask about it every month.
We got you.
It wasn't the smoothest process when it started related to the CRRs
Yeah,
and then legal.
gotcha, okay.
So we need to, and I'll take the lead, we need to tighten that up
Okay.
before we give it back to you all and give it back to the neighborhood officers. So the ones who do want to use the neighborhood funding for that, here is A through Z, the actual process.
Okay.
That was not clearly defined, which is why it was extremely bumpy when we're trying to roll it out.
Yeah. Okay. Council Moore?
And Madam Chair, to that point, I think that's the reason why I was trying to get a better understanding about the cost. Because I think there have been several numbers that have been thrown around to neighborhood association presidents. And they have an idea of how much it's supposed to cost based on a price that was given, years before, some of us even came on the council. So just trying to get the correct information
Yes, sir.
so that they know.
Okay. Council Lewis, do you have something? You good? Everybody good? Okay, is there a motion for approval?
I move approval.
Second.
All in favor, say aye. Aye. That item passes. Thank you, Chief. Next item is item number 21.
I'll let my boss bring this one up.
That's cool.
Again, good afternoon, council. Before you on this item, I believe it's 21. Please recall back on January 31st, we had a meeting and this body approved several things from the surplus funding. One of those things was $5 million towards an amphitheater within our city limits. The total cost of this amphitheater is $50 million. Birmingham's portion is $5 million of this, so $45 million is covered through an assortment of other partners, as well as the bond market, et cetera. Before us today, I'm going to allow Ms. Melissa Smiley, as well as Jim Stanley, to talk about Birmingham's portion of what's in front of you, which is the actual funding agreement in detail from a contractual standpoint between us, the city of Birmingham, and PJCC, who they've both taken lead, and I want to thank them publicly for taking lead on this. And then at the conclusion of their portion, related to the city's end of this contractual agreement, that Tad Snyder of the BJCC shared with you the detail of this contractual agreement related to the other partner in this, which is the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center. With that, I turn it over to Ms. Smiley and Mr. Stanley.
Good afternoon, councilors.
Good afternoon.
Melissa Smiley, Mayor's Office. What's before you, as the mayor indicated, it's the amphitheater. There are two agreements that have been submitted for your consideration. There is a project cooperation agreement and a funding agreement. As the mayor stated, the city is seeking to invest the $5 million that was allocated by this council back in January 31st of this year. And the other funding that's going to be invested here is another $5 million from Jefferson County, $5 million from the BJCC, $5 million from the manager, which is Live Nation, and then $30 million in bonds. We have our legal counsel, as stated earlier, Mr. Jim Stanley. He's helped review these agreements and prepare them in a form that we think is acceptable. And then as well, we have representation from the BJCC.
All right. Attorney Stanley, do you have anything?
Yeah, I can give you a quick overview of the two agreements because they are different. If you were here when the stadium, protective stadium funding was approved in 2019, the funding agreement's going to be similar to that. Has an obligation for the city, and the county also has an obligation to pay on the debt service. But what the cooperation agreement provides is that the Civic Center Authority generates fees in lieu of taxes, which is all the revenue from all of their facilities. Part of those are pledged towards the stadium bonds, but they have sufficient excess revenues where they will be reimbursing or actually pre-funding the fund we pay from. So unless something drastic happens, the city will not be out of pocket for anything but the $5 million. So it's an additional $5 million payment up front. City and the county, in effect, backstop the payment on the bonds, but that funding is to be paid from the excess fee in lieu of taxes that the Civic Center generates from all their facilities as their revenue.
Okay, thank you. Councilors, do you have any questions? Council Abbott?
Madam,
Yes.
I apologize to interrupt.
No, you're fine.
Before you get into questions with your colleagues, how can I explain this? Oh, your colleague that's not present, Clinton Woods, was very adamant and passionate about certain language being included in the document that's before you. There were a series of conversations. He had one with me. We had one with Public Affairs and Government Affairs team. And he had a series of legal. As I understand it, we move out of the way to allow your colleague to engage with legal around what could and could not be put in before you. I'm speaking about this because he's not here, so I want to advocate on his behalf. He had some sincere back and forth in detail, and I think the conclusion, you can correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Stanley, that what could be put in there was put in, and what legally could not was not, and it was explained why not. In addition to that, I think that was shared with the partner at the table, Mr. Tad Snyder. It went back to your colleague. The mayor's office was not a part of that conversation. And was that sufficient? And would you like to share with them anything else related to that?
Yes, I'll be glad to. But Councilor Woods in particular had a number of provisions in order to maximize participation of minority contractors on the project. You'll see in the agreement, and it was stated, I think with the stadium project, the Civic Center has a goal of 30% participation. Councilor Woods devised a number of additional steps to help maximize that, including having some meetings with BCIA on the front end, and looking at opportunities to have contractors come in for a meet and greet, ensuring that the plans and specs were made available in plenty of time for anybody who might want to place a bid to do that. And then as the project goes along, there are opportunities for regular interaction with the city and or the BCIA for everything from architect and contractor meetings where we're on the site, they're having meetings. Those can be attended to determine the level of minority participation, and then actually being able to have site visits. You know, sometimes, not on this project, but other projects, we've heard people say, we'll have such a percentage of participation, and it's been observed on site that that's not the case. Councilor Woods has suggested a provision, and the Civic Center agreed, where again, city and BCA can actually visit the site during construction to confirm that the numbers and information we get on participation are available. There are a number of reports that the Civic Center has agreed to provide on a monthly basis to the council, and one of those will be about how they are progressing to achieving their goal of 30% participation.
Let me say, let me just add to what Mr. Stanley said. This is outside of your colleague's request. I share his desire. It's unfortunate that the state of Alabama does not give local control, because if I had local control, I would dictate, with your permission, on what should be a mandatory minimum of minority participation. Unfortunately, we are not allowed to do that per state law. However, in my other hat, because I wear a second hat, which is one of 9, or one of however many, since it's new law, Jan, I don't know, related to the Birmingham Jefferson Civic Center, that I will be going on record with my colleagues as well, saying this should be a priority, and we should hold ourselves to a standard that we didn't meet those numbers in the past, and we should, I guess, let me see what term to use, Chaz, bust our Rubus Maximus?
Maximus.
Yes. To make sure that it's higher than it's been in the past, and that minimum 30% is met.
Huh.
And we need to call ourselves out if it's not.
Good, okay. Did y'all want to hear Mr. Snyder first, or do you want, okay. Mr. Snyder, do you want to come up?
Thank you. And Todd Snyder with the BJCC. I would just add to what's been shared already. So there's another benefit that we haven't expressed so far. You know, the city's commitment ask is the $5 million. Through the first 8-9 months of work, the city will receive back approximately $1.3 million in building permit fees and vacation fees, which officially, essentially nets down the city's investment about $3.7 million. So, those will go to the city. That's not something that the county realizes, and they're just fees associated with projects of this kind, and because of the cost, it's significant. One other thing that I think I would share, that the BJCC is the owner in this in the building, will not operate it. It will be Live Nation as the operator. That's very atypical of anything we've done before, but we feel like for what this project brings to Birmingham and the greater community, and especially the area around the BJCC, it's such a good project that we wanted to figure out how to be a part of it, and contributing approximately half the debt service through those excess taxes that Jim Stanley mentioned was a great way we could do that. But once it's up and running, Live Nation will operate it, but the BJCC is going to guarantee any cost overruns from construction, any shortage in annual debt service, all that comes directly from the Civic Center Authority. And then in terms of there'll be some other infrastructure improvements related to parking on the site with the 4 parking decks that the Civic Center will fund also. So we've really committed to what we think this project can mean for the former hospital campus, the area around the BJCC, the surrounding neighborhoods, and downtown. It's not one that Civic Center Authority benefits from directly very much, but we feel it's important for Birmingham, and that's why we're involved.
Okay. You want us to pass
Sure,
around?
absolutely. Just kind of recaps most of what I just said. Welcome to them. We can just, if you'd like to, we can step through this, kind of page by page quickly. One is just the proposed overall structure of the agreement. Most of what we talked about a little bit, capacity, the amphitheater, anticipated costs. Unfortunately, it's going to end up being more than $50 million. We know that just from initial estimating, but again, the Civic Center Authority's committed to funding whatever that overage is. It's probably a $56, $57 million project, unfortunately. Labor cost increases, construction material cost increases, all just continue to work against us. Ironically, interest rates haven't negatively impacted the project too much yet. Listing the partners with, again, the BJCC, Live Nation, the City of Birmingham, and Jefferson County. It's a 30-year financing. Some important milestones that have been achieved. The first step was working with the Commission and Visitors Bureau to redirect some lodging taxes that were going through the BJCC directly to the Convention Bureau to this project. That was successful last fall. Again, the BJCC is committed to its $5 million, it's turning out to be $5 million plus commitment to the project. We have purchased the parcels that make up the amphitheater site from Northwest Side Redevelopment LLC or Corporate Realty. So that transaction occurred back in March. And then there's a funding resolution or authorizing resolution that the Civic Center Authority Board passed a couple of weeks ago to prepare for financing around August or early September. Some of the activities currently underway, I mentioned that with the construction permit fees and the vacation fees, there'll be some money coming back to the city to offset the city's investment. We're still working with Jefferson County on their funding agreement and project cooperation agreement, which again are identical to what the city's doing. I will say that the way the agreements are structured is that if any one of these agreements doesn't fall into place, the whole agreement just unwinds and terminates. So if any one party doesn't do their part, it's not like the city's going to be committed and somebody else can't be. And then underway currently are preparing to demo what's on the amphitheater site, begin to prepare that for some enabling work that needs to be done to meet the construction schedule. And then the other commitment the Civic Center Authority has that I did not mention is any ongoing capital maintenance would be associated with the Civic Center Authority. Well, that would be our responsibility. So any long-term care for the amphitheater, we would be responsible for.
Okay.
And then kind of the last item, again, the goal is to do the 2025 amphitheater season, which means we need to start moving dirt out there late this fall, early next year.
Thank you. Councilors, do you have any questions? Madam President, Councilor Abbott.
I have a couple. I haven't seen a drawing that shows what the amphitheater's going to actually look like. Do we have architectural drawings, or are we just still using the?
So there should have been a site plan in the packet that went out that roughly shows, or we know supplied one. I didn't bring one today. I can give them to you that shows kind of how the amphitheater will be situated on the site and some basic idea of what the building structure would look like. But things like finishes, skin, color, materials, those aren't final yet. Those will be worked on as we continue to develop the design.
Yeah, because I think what I've seen so far was like an artist rendering of what it might look like someday if it ever happened. And then the other question was a little bit of confusion I've got, and maybe it's not you that answers it, but you know, this item says $5 million plus a portion of debt service on bonds. And I thought I heard you say that you're going to be responsible for any overruns on the bonds. So which is it?
We would be, and I don't know if you want me to answer it, but if there's any, we would be pre-funding the annual committed debt service the city would make every month. And if there was any shortage from the dedicated sources, we would make up that shortfall. So it would not be the city responsible for any debt service shortfall in any given year.
Stanley, explain what she's saying in this document.
Yeah, and those are really two separate things. The financing part that we're concerned with, each of the four stakeholders are contributing $5 million towards a $20 million project. So that's $20 million. That leaves $30 million that's going to be financed in the bonds that the Civic Center will issue. The city and the county are using our full faith and credit to back the repayment of those bonds. But the documents provide that really the true funding source of that will be the excess revenues that the Civic Center is already receiving from all of its facilities. Some of those are pledged towards the stadium debt, but there's enough surplus that should more than pre-fund that payment obligation. Overruns are something else. We're not responsible for anything that's an overrun. Our obligations are related to the initial $5 million payment and then debt service on the $30 million worth of bonds.
Madam Chairwoman,
Yes.
to your colleague on the committee, does that answer your question?
Well, it's a little confusing, but, so you're saying that there'll be $30 million in bonds, and we won't have to pay anything on that because it's going to be paid by
The pilot. Yeah, the pilot, which is the payment rate in lieu of taxes. So,
Okay, yeah, it'll be paid by funding that's already coming out of the BJCC and its operations.
Right.
And the only time that we will be doing plus a portion of debt service on bonds is if there's some major disaster and no one ever comes back to the BJCC.
That's right.
We're all,
That's where our full faith and credit comes in.
yeah, and it's the city of Birmingham's full paying
And the county.
and the county.
Not alone.
So we can hold hands as the ship sinks. Thank you.
Madam President?
I just want to be sure that I understand. I think Council Abbott's question clarified. Let me get back to it. With the debt. When we talk about the estimated annual debt service and how does that, we're basing that on just,
The amount borrowed versus the current interest rate, the
Okay.
term of the bonds.
okay.
And it's just a little under $2 million a year right now, which is a combination of the lodging taxes that were pledged to the CVB that have been redirected, and the tax collections off the operation of the amphitheater are almost to the penny that amount.
Yeah.
I just want to kind of, you guys to see a little, so imagine if the city, the county, all the stakeholders did not put the $5 million into it. Then you would, the BJCC would have to float a bond for $50 million, which makes that payment much higher. So that was the reason to get the $20 million down payment or on the separate side of it, so it wouldn't be so much burden. And knowing that the taxes would come in would help suffice and pay their yearly allocation for the debt.
That's correct.
Thank you. I think Council said yes.
Yeah, I just want to Mr. Stanley did answer, Attorney Stanley answered the question, because that was gonna be my question, like, what was the minority participation? Thank Councilor Woods for advocating for that, and the mayor, for standing strong on that, because that was a question that I was gonna ask, but we got answered in the beginning, so thank you guys. This is gonna be like a game changer, having, growing up on 25th Avenue North, and saw MacArthur students while I went to school, and we always run up the hill to Calvary Hospital, and go to the 10th floor to get ice cream. So this is gonna be, it's gonna be good for, you know, to see that community come back alive, you know, leaving Birmingham for almost 10 years and come back and see, you know, what has been there for many, many years, and to see the change that's going to transpire in that community. Because I do have family still live on 20th Avenue North. I have 2 aunts that live there. My grandparents' house is there. So to see all of that take place is going to be huge.
Can often be overused, but transformative, I think, is appropriate for this greater project that this will be an anchor of.
Thank you.
Councilor
Thank
Moore.
Councilor Lewis again for advocating for minority contractors as well.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I might have missed it. I was trying to find if there was an anticipated amount of lodging tax that we were, I guess, expecting to receive each year.
So roughly, the lodging tax has been redirected is about $980-something thousand that would have come from the Sheraton and the Westin that is going back into this debt service model.
Gotcha.
That's it? Okay. Council Williams?
Yeah, 2 things. One is do we still have the contract with you guys about, the separate contract showing that you guys will be responsible no matter what for the,
Probably can't answer, but I believe it's covered in the agreement that
Okay.
we are
This is
responsible.
what we were originally talking about.
Yes.
3 months, how many months?
A while ago now.
Okay. And then in terms of access, is there a reason why, as opposed to the project we did with you guys how many years ago it's been, the 2018, that there's not access provision in the contract?
So the difference is with the stadium and the arena, we operate the venue. So making that concession is something we can do and should do and did. In this case, Live Nation is operating, selling, booking the venue, managing it day to day. We don't have that role, so it's not in the current agreement.
Is it? You good? Councilor Clark? Do you have any questions? Councilor Abbott?
Yeah, I have actually 2 other questions that came to mind. The maintenance of the facilities. Now, the BJCC is going to maintain I'm big on maintenance.
Yes.
Maintain the facilities, and the city of Birmingham won't have to send anybody over there to clean it up, guard it, stop the sewer overflow. I mean, any of that stuff, it's all on you.
Yes, ma'am. So Live Nation's the operator, would do the basic, ongoing, regular kind of housekeeping maintenance, capital maintenance would fall back on the Civic Center Authority. So that no ongoing, no future ask of the city for any of that.
Okay, good. So that means Live Nation cleans up after the
Yes.
concerts? Okay,
Cleans
good.
up the neighborhood after the concert, because we know what happens in reality.
We may do that, we pick up the trash around. It will be picked up by someone other than the city.
Okay.
Okay.
And then the other question is about minority contractors. So are we trying to make sure that minority contracting firms get the business or minority workers get the business? Because, for instance, if I was a minority contract firm owner, you could give me the contract and I could go out and hire a whole bunch of whoever knew how to do whatever it is my contracting firm did. So are we looking for people, like individual people, to have a job working on the project, or are we just looking for the owner of the minority firm to make a lot of money?
Chairman,
Mayor Wilson.
2 minutes to your committee members' question. I have no clue how Mr. Snyder is going to respond. But I do want him to respond. I want to add, I think I should add some context to your question. My desire as mayor, separate from the other hat I wear, but I guess in the part of the other hat I wear is for local participation. And so, say local hire, I think a lot of times it happens on sites of mega construction sites where a lot of people come in from out of town. Earl and I have been working on a local play for quite some time. Then again, as the state telling us what we cannot do, but it's our desire to push local hire. That is separate and apart from minority participation related to those who actually receive a contract to do the work, separate from who those contractors hire, under them as individual employees and or 1099. Related to the contractor piece, I do want to go on record saying this. Minority participation works at a faster speed, and I know you can speak to this better than I can. So help me out if I get it wrong, or help me out if I get it right. There's bonding capacity issues. There's capacity issues overall. We had a meeting during the pre-construction phase of the new stadium and the renovation of Legacy Arena, where we put, I don't know, it was 300 plus people there. That doesn't mean there was 300 companies. There was a significant amount of minority vendors and contractors in the room. And I want to go on record, I want to be on repeat saying that if people came together from a bonding capacity standpoint, it would be way easier to get to that 30% instead of trying to eat on your own. I hope that makes sense what I'm saying. But I want to be on record saying that so folks can know that I'm advocating hard for that minimum 40-30. I want more, but at a minimum, if you want to get there, the path to get there is for people to work together. Now, any of y'all chime in on that if I'm off on what I'm saying.
Well, okay. May I?
Councilor Clark.
Well, if you're in a large construction situation and you have to break up big packages like for electrical to make a lot of small packages, you make the job very inefficient for the owner. I mean, there's a cost to that, to administering 10 electrical contracts instead of 1. So what the mayor's saying is if the electrical contractors would get together and form a joint venture, they could bid and handle a bigger, they could compete effectively for a larger contract. We don't have sources in all the trades who are capable of doing large commercial work. And then sometimes when we do have sources, they're busy. I mean, sometimes you can't get a person to bid. It's like, hey, I really need you to bid on this. I need you to get this job. But they're busy because everybody else who needs minority participation is using them because the sources are few and limited. So it's, you know, it's a struggle. That's
We
all I have to
want to
say.
encourage people to play team. But Tad needs to answer your question.
And I think that's where some of the language that was added, which we're perfectly agreeable to, really leaning on leveraging the BCA on the front end of all this to create opportunities for these groups of people to connect and meet each other in enough time to actually do something with the opportunity. So to your question, the goal would be the opportunity contractually is with the contractors or the subcontractors. But certainly through making those connections with BCA and connecting people together, we're hoping they're making those, putting together teams that meet the employees themselves meeting that as well. So it's two different buckets, two different tasks to work on that we'd be committed to maximizing that.
Yeah, and my question was really like, who are the people walking around on the site with the tool belts on, actually doing the work? Are they gonna be minorities, or are they gonna be whoever the minority contracting firm hired?
They're gonna be whoever the minority contracting firm hires.
So we still could end
Along
up,
with the GM as well.
we still could end up with a work site where you look at all the people working and they don't look like the people you thought they were gonna look like. Okay, well, I mean, I guess that's a fact of life, but, it seems like we're just like enriching one guy instead of all the people who really need it, which would be the worker bees. But I guess we have no control.
Unfortunately, that, our ability is to influence that subcontractor or contractor, not their employees.
Well, thank you.
Okay. I have a couple of questions. When will the bonds be issued? Because I saw an agreement, it has to be issued by October, correct?
They have to be issued prior to October 1st. The goal is very late October because that is a great month to hit the bond market.
Okay.
Just because of the way some redemptions and new issues come in, or very early September.
Okay.
And to meet that, the team working on the financing is back up from that date and when do certain things have to happen. It's one of the reasons we're here now.
Okay. And what is our payment date and schedule?
Well, I think we're shooting for the 15th of July for the consideration of the full council.
Okay.
So after that execution, then we'll work with Tad and his team on paying
The full five? The full five?
the full 5 years.
Okay. And then I had a question about design.
11,
Sorry.
sorry.
You said
July 11th.
July 11th. I had a question similar, kind of with Council Abbott, the design, because I know Huntsville's is their seating is very uncomfortable. I got that feedback. What kind of seating are we gonna have?
It won't be the bench seating Huntsville has.
Okay,
We've
good.
heard that piece of feedback.
Okay.
That was very cost efficient, but having been to a show there, it's not comfortable at all. So it will not be the bench seating you see in Huntsville.
Okay, do you know what kind of seating?
It'll get selected through the process, but it will be a chair back seat of some kind.
Oh, that's nice, because Pelham doesn't have that, do they?
They do for part of it, not all of it.
Okay.
Hard seat.
I thought so. And so I guess this is more of like a technical piece, like weatherproofing the facility. I'm not familiar with that. How does that work for the amphitheater?
So the general seating bowl is exposed to the elements. But the stage house, the dressing rooms, all the office space, concession areas, club space, those are all finished buildings that are fully enclosed and weatherproof. So the outside part, kind of like the stadium, the bowl of the stadium, it just sits in the weather. But you select materials that are suited to that.
Gotcha, okay. And then, I guess, I don't know how exactly to word this. I guess what profit is the city getting off of this? Like, is it people buy food and we get a part of the tax? Like, how does that work? How does this benefit us?
Well, the city ultimately benefits from what is spawned around the amphitheater development. There's not going to be any revenue coming back to the city directly from the amphitheater. There won't be to us either.
So I help Tad with that one.
I'll help Chad.
Okay, so as you said, the city doesn't see any benefit as the amphitheater becomes online because most of those taxes created for the benefit of people around there living, working, playing, going into the amphitheater, pay the bond issuance. Now we will see the indirect impact for people staying in the city for over an extended period of time. So say we had a concert on a Saturday, somebody may come in on Thursday and leave on Sunday. We benefit from a city perspective that they're going out, hoping to go into the summit or going out to different bars, restaurants, and then we see those benefits of the sales tax, use tax, and just, those type of things. So that's how we look at it from, at what the city will benefit from an amphitheater.
This is, Madam Chairwoman, the way I say it, this is our last leg of completing a full package deal of what I call an event-based venues. You have a football stadium that can house some form of music venue and sports, of course. You have a Legacy Arena basketball arena that can house sports, but can also house music as well. And then you have an amphitheater. So consider any artist in the nation, any form of music. And I've shared this before, it's worth sharing again. When you consider Birmingham residents are not having to get in their car and drive to Nashville, Tuscaloosa, Atlanta, New Orleans, that we have every event space, like right there in one footprint, that we can be on the circuit of anybody's tours. I think the refurb of Legacy Arena is teaching us that we're literally on everybody's circuit, and we're in a position to participate. Is that direct benefit? No, but we get all the indirect of the lodging tax, and sales taxes, from all the other things that are happening around that event. This adds on top of that. So everything you all see in the lodging sales tax base shoots up.
Okay.
So it's like indirect to the indirect.
Yeah, and I asked that because I know I've gotten questions about that, like how is this benefiting the city? And so I want to make sure we have that information when residents are asking us, why did you vote for this? How is this going to benefit us?
Yeah, you tell them that the $5 million towards a $50 million investment sends a return of more lodging sales tax for us, the route to increase our budget to support more issues in the community such as infrastructure, et cetera.
Because we're still getting that $3 per day per night on every room stay that's in the city of Birmingham. So this builds another caveat for us to have an event for rooms to be open and for people to stay.
And to the degree it helps, it's going to end up being 3.7 million, not 5 million.
Okay, yeah. Anybody else have any?
I just got one more question for you. How many jobs is the amphitheater going to recruit? People will be hired, working at them. Do you know that?
I don't, but I can get it to you. Since we would have projected that already if we were operating it, but since we're not, we can get that number.
Also, one last thing is related but not really related. We have black businesses in Uptown that are struggling with parking. For example, they're having to pay their employees parking tickets. And so if you all, maybe that's a conversation we can sit down with you more, because we don't want to lose those businesses, but they don't feel like they have a lot of support with the parking.
Be happy to talk about that.
Yeah, I actually sent an email to kind of engage that conversation, to, to make sure that we accommodate, those that are running down that corridor with, with parking and their patrons, the people that's free, because people can lose business if people are not able to get to them. So we just want to make sure that that process is fair, to those businesses that are running along that corridor, because all of, like the mayor said, you got this big footprint. And now we on this playing field where we can compete with anybody, because a lot of people are coming to Birmingham. I can just being out, you got people coming. I met somebody last weekend, they were from Florida, coming here, tapping into the entertainment market. I've heard people, traveling from large cities like Atlanta coming to, the Uptown Jazz, because Atlanta is so busy, so people are looking for that opportunity to come in and, be able to enjoy themselves and walk around in these, different areas. But just making sure that they have adequate parking when they're visiting. So we just want to make sure that we being fair, to those that are being a service, in the Uptown entertainment district.
Mr. Snyder, I'll reiterate what my colleagues are saying as they confided in me some of their concerns. Businesses have two, which is this. This entire footprint is a football stadium, basketball arena, future amphitheater. Its original footprint was convention space, conventions, set of conferences, et cetera. Then we added on one hotel. And then Larry Langford and William Bell added on an additional hotel as well as these mostly national chain restaurants. But what they're speaking to is most of these are local. The local are the actual minority black businesses. One led by a woman, K&J, the other being Eugene's Hot Chicken Homesteads. Zebby as well, sure, my bad. Thank you. And,
Uptown.
Uptown.
For real alterations.
yes, keep going. So,
All minorities.
when you consider everything that's developing in the positive, I think what the council is saying, I agree with them, is that the business owners have brought ample concern. I think a lot of those businesses saw the success of the World Games and the numbers were out of the roof. A lot of that was foot traffic and nobody can park. When we don't have major events like that, they're depending, and when there's not major events at those sites I named, I know Quinn has shared it, Ms. Tate has shared it, Pro Tem has shared it, that those businesses have a parking issue. And for your sake, city's sake, we gotta figure that out to make sure that they have customers coming in their doors and not cheered by the buildings.
It's more so the employees, because there's a difference between patrons and employees. Is their employees are having trouble too. And that's a big difference between somebody who's gonna be there an hour and somebody has to work 8-hour shifts.
I think if we get together and talk about how it currently works for these and all the other restaurant operations that are in the area, we can identify something that works.
All right, thank you.
We'll get it set up. Thank you.
Yeah, Madam Chair, I just wanted to bring up, and maybe this is something Ms. Key, Attorney Smiley, or Stanley can help with, but I believe when the 2018 project cooperation agreement was presented to the council, actually in this room, the council amended that contract. One of the things I want to point out about that cooperation agreement at that time, citizens or constituents were, I guess, in the councilor's ear about Legion Field losing events. And I think it was entered into that cooperation agreement that the BJCC would work with Legion Field several times a year to help them with an event. Now, I don't know if that's happened, but it was the council that inserted that type of language into that form project cooperation agreement. So I think in terms of your legislative power, you can amend the contract before you.
I think that's a great idea.
Same provision will be fine in this agreement as well.
Yes, Council.
Yeah, I'm sorry, Mr. Chairman, I want to make sure on the record we understand before that speaks to our attorneys. Am I hearing that needs to be added before July 11th?
Is it possible?
You saying it's okay with it?
Have we done anything?
I'm not,
Have they helped Legion
Is there an
Field
example where was that?
under the protective
I want to make
order?
sure I'm understanding you.
Add the language in.
Mr. Chairman,
I'm sorry.
I want to make sure, is that, are you giving us a suggestion, or are you saying that's what's the
want,
desire?
well, I want it. I don't know about the rest of the council, but we want to make sure we still, keep Legion Field active.
That language, or you're saying the same language that is in the stadium, renovation Legacy Arena, you want it in this SD?
Yes, sir. And then we need a report at the end of the year saying exactly how the BJCC helped the Legion Field.
So I cannot speak for TAD. What I will say is that the major vendors, particularly the stadium, you think UAB has 6 home games. You think Legion has, I don't know the number of home games they have, off the top of my head, I have memorized. Then USFL has a certain amount of home games. I think not USFL, Legion can show they've been there. I think UAB may have had a few practices there. I'm not sure, again, I have not talked to him, so I'm comfortable saying this on record, looking at y'all, not even looking at him, that I'm not sure how that happens in this instance, because similar to the access issue, how want to say this. Live Nation dictates the actual event space, not BJCC. So with that language, the end of the year report, and that's mainly what I'm trying to figure out off the top of my head is how does BJCC show that they're trying to, I guess in lieu of an event, not being at the new amphitheater, which is a smaller contained space, instead be placed or happen at Legion Field.
Well, this can continue to be a good faith effort for that because I'm sure there's some concerts that could go to Legion Field because there are more seating. We just don't want to neglect Legion Field just because we have all this brand new shiny stuff. And because of the investment we're making to Smithfield, I think that'll be a great opportunity to have concerts there.
If I could just add, I think the language we landed on back in 2018 was more of a consultation, advise, work with. City Center Authority by statute can only operate in a defined footprint, which is roughly as the campus of the JCC. We can't invest in, we can't perform or compel or book anything, but we can work with and help and advise and direct and provide any kind of input we can. And we certainly can't bind Live Nation to doing something outside the amphitheater footprint this agreement's for. But I think the spirit of what we're talking about, we're absolutely willing to do. In terms of any ideas, opportunities we may become aware of that aren't a fit for our facilities, we can feed them that way. I mean, I think there are ways to work together to try to do this, and we're certainly willing to do that.
And I didn't mean Live Nation, I really just meant the entities inside the city of Birmingham because unfortunately Council Parker isn't here. He was the biggest advocate for Legion Field. And so, we have to answer the residents who are like, what's going to happen to Legion Field? Is it only going to be used for Classic? Which that may be just a bigger conversation we can have.
Is it going to be used for Classic?
Well, it is for a couple
I know,
years,
for a
but-
couple years.
So to that point, I just want to make sure that the council understands that anytime that we go after anything in this collaborative between us and CBB, we market Legion Field a lot of the time when we go out to major events. I know we're going to have the transplant games before the council very soon. They'll be using Legion Field as one of the mainstays and Protect Stadium. So we continually beat that drum. That is a viable option for any type of event that wants to come to Birmingham.
Okay, good. Any councilors have any other questions, comments, Councilor Abbott?
Yeah, the 9,384 people that are turning to the amphitheater, this 50 million is only going to build a place for them to sit, right? So where do they leave their cars?
And 2 parking assets.
Okay, so like decks?
Rehabilitation of the existing parking deck and building a surface lot. The other contribution I referenced, and it's in the sheet, is the 4 parking decks up there will be part of this plan. And we're going to commit to, whether it's developer-led or BJCC-led, making sure those are all rehabilitated as part of this plan also. So it puts roughly 2,500 parking spaces at the amphitheater.
I'll tell you this too, I'm sorry, Madam Chairwoman, to this. I have this question. Some of this is anecdotal, but some of this is like by sight and actually paying attention to what's been happening the last 2 years at the UAB games. The height of the USFL games, so the biggest audience, if it's fair to say, was yesterday.
Yeah.
It's 8,000 or 9,000.
Right at 9,000.
So I'll stop, I don't even have to use other gyms. Yesterday's attendance was 9,000. Anybody would tell you that you drove in that footprint, that parking literally went all the way up where the amphitheater would be, and all the way down on my Phillips Cap. And on this side, the other side of Highway 31, where I don't know what they call that, but under the 31st exit, and then on this side, probably all the way to City Hall, and a little probably by the Greyhound. Is that fair to say? So the street park, there's a lot of street parking that takes place. But what I noticed on the side where the amphitheater be, there's, even for usage of what's happening at the new stadium, Protector Stadium. There's ample street parking used north of the stadium.
So when you add 10,000 more people, and will Protective Stadium be allowed to have an event at the same time as the amphitheater, and then all hell would break loose?
So the good thing about the city's BJC being the owner of both, we would never book two on the same day.
Good, because, you know, parking is a big issue, and there are a lot of people, you know, if they can't park somewhere where they feel safe going back to their car, they just won't come.
Now, we've done this with the arena. We may well have a 2 o'clock football game and an
Yeah.
8 o'clock concert. We would do both of those, but never at the same time. And it's interesting too, yesterday was a great example to watch the dynamic. There was a lot of on-street parking at Stadium. A lot of paid parking was almost empty.
Well, nobody wants to pay to walk.
I understand, but if you couldn't find a space, you would end up paying for parking.
And,
So,
you know, I'm an advocate of the people who park on the street not parking in front of someone's dwelling, who is a resident of Birmingham, and that is an issue.
yes.
So, because people just don't want to pay. And some people are scared of parking decks. I don't understand.
There
but,
are
you know.
several parking decks in that footprint of the new.
Well, the star parking decks are all gonna get renovated as part of this project, that'll be 2,500, and then if each car will just bring 4 people, everything will be fine.
And an average concert based on Live Nation projections is probably going to sell 65 to 70% of the tickets. So that's more like 6,000, 6,500, not the 9,300. And then if we ever have those sellout dates, it's 3 blocks. We would do a shuttle like we have on with some of the bigger stadium games and access parking resources and take people those last 2 blocks.
And of course, we will always promote our microtransit systems more than anything, so that's always a vibe. So they can leave their cars somewhere else.
They're gonna be drinking anyways.
They'll be drunk, and when they can't find their car, they'll just blame it on the It'll be fine. But you know, that is a concern where they're gonna park.
And now that we have official ride share zones or corrals designated around the stadium and the arena, that number's skyrocketing too.
That's the point I was gonna bring up, Madam Chair, if I can. I did notice a lot of, people who were leaving the stadium, they had their phones out, they were calling Lyft and Uber and that type thing. And so I was gonna encourage, I don't know, in some of your larger cities, you have certain designated drop-off and pick-up points near a civic center or that type of thing. And so that, I tried to get one the other day for UAB, and they kept running around. So, you know, some of these designated.
So we have one with Uber and Lyft,
Do
a
you?
designated corral. For whatever reason, communicating that to the driver network has been slow. But if you look in the app, there are 2 designated corrals, one for the arena, one for the stadium, with both rideshare services.
They've also been using bigger city prices, so a lot of people don't want to use it.
I was gonna say, and that was something I saw on social media today about the
Surcharge.
amount and the surcharge, and even from the airport to somewhere, or like from there.
That's good to know.
And I encountered that in Jackson the other day, but I thought it was just because Jackson, Mississippi was small in the time of the night.
You will pay a higher price regardless of the city.
Okay.
At the drop-off or particularly at the let-out. It will be higher, it won't be your normal price. Surge, but there's some gouging as well.
Yeah, that's a good point. I was thinking about when I went to, it was the championship, Alabama 2 years ago, and that was, we had a parking lot that was really far, but they had a shuttle, and so it got us a lot closer, so that'd be smart, yeah. Okay. Councilor Williams, you have anything? Y'all good? Everybody good? Okay. Is there a motion for approval?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor say aye. Aye. That item passes. Nay. 1 nay. Any abstentions? Jeff, did you have something you'd like to bring up on the business?
You have some other ordinance that was submitted by the budget office. So I think there are.
They're in your folders.
There are 8. You want me to read them for you? Or-
Like a short version. Or you can at least say which council office.
District 1, transferring and ending general fund account balance $15,422.52. To various park improvements. District 2, transferring an ending fund, general fund balance of $19,819 to District 2, various park improvement projects. District 3, transferring general fund ending balance of $71,016 to District 3 parks and recreation, various park improvements. District 4, transferring an ending general fund balance of $14,354 to District 4 various park improvement projects. District 6, transferring an ending general fund balance of $21,039 to District 6 housing demolition improvements. Just to be clear, Madam Chair, you set up your capital project account on housing demolition, so it's already here, everybody else saying parks. So if you want to do parks, you can add parks. You did yours based on housing demolition last year.
That's fine.
Right. District 8, and this may be changing.
No, I don't think it is.
All right. District 8
I
has
hear everything that makes me think it's
an ending. Okay, the general ending fund balance, $36,742, going to District 8 Parks and Recreation, various park improvement projects. You have District 9, ending general fund balance of $11,982, going to District 9 Parks and Recreation, various park improvement projects. Then from the departmental level, we have $105,098 going to the City Council Chamber Renovations Project Capital Improvements account.
Okay. Actually, I want to change mine to parks.
Okay, so, we're good. Okay, we're good.
Okay.
The administration will accept that.
Okay, thank you. Anybody have any questions?
Grand total $295,475.
Thank you, Chief. Do we need to vote on this,
So,
Jeff?
question,
Mhm.
Madam Chair.
Yes.
On the transfer of the departmental level to the city council chamber renovation, if the city council chamber doesn't require all of that, can that fall back to the department renovation?
Yes, I would say yes, because the current project account, I know Chief is looking kind of
The chamber.
cross-eyed on it. But a part of our original capital project account was the improvements to the common area. So we had fleet, common area, and the chamber improvements, so I would say yes.
Okay, so that needs to just be in the air because it does have chamber renovation.
We'll verify.
And Madam Chair, an addendum should have already circulated, I believe.
Yeah, at least
for tomorrow's agenda.
Okay. Well, is there a motion to approve these items?
Can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
I noticed that there were 2 districts that were not included. Is that, did I count wrong, or were there only 2 districts that didn't transfer any money?
That's correct.
Thanks.
They used all their funds for it.
We spent our money. I move for approval of these items.
All in favor say aye. Aye. Is there a motion to adjourn?
I move for adjournment.
All in favor say aye.